The phone vibrated against the kitchen table at exactly 9:30 p.m. I was sitting there staring at a bowl of instant soup that had long gone cold. The kind you buy in packs of 3 for $2 at the grocery store. The kind I never imagined I'd be eating alone at 68 years old in a house I helped pay for while my family celebrated without me 2 miles away. I picked up the phone, my hands still smelling faintly of bleach from scrubbing their bathroom floors that afternoon. For a moment, just a foolish, desperate moment, I thought maybe it was Ryan, my son, calling to say they were coming home early, that there had been a mistake, that of course I was supposed to be there. But it wasn't a call. It was a text from Jessica. MIL, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them. MIL, mother-in-law. Never Margaret. Never Maggie like my friends called me. Never even Mom, though I'd raised her children while she climbed the corporate ladder. Just MIL, like it was the job title instead of a relationship. I read those words once, twice, 3 times. Each time they cut a little deeper. Heat up the leftovers. I set the phone down carefully as if it might shatter. But it wasn't the phone that was breaking. It was something inside my chest, something that had been cracking for 3 years, hairline fractures spreading wider with each dismissal, each casual cruelty, each moment of being treated like furniture in my own house. The house was too quiet. It smelled like pine sol and loneliness. I had spent the entire afternoon cleaning every corner, ironing Ryan's dress shirts until they were crisp and perfect, folding the kids' laundry into neat stacks. My back ached. My knees throbbed. At 68, spending 5 hours on your feet leaves marks. I shouldn't have done it, but I opened Instagram. My hands moved before my brain could stop them. There they were, all of them. The first photo showed Jessica in a tight red dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She was holding a glass of champagne, her smile radiant and triumphant. The caption read, "Celebrating my queen's promotion, regional manager at 34. Here's to women who never stop, 237 likes in 20 minutes. The second photo was the kids, my grandchildren Tyler and Emma, with plates piled high with breaded shrimp and French fries. Tyler had cocktail sauce on his chin. Emma was making a peace sign with her tiny fingers, her gap-toothed smile wide and joyful. The third photo made my breath catch. The whole table. I counted 9 people. Ryan in the white shirt I'd ironed that very morning. Jessica glowing beside him. The kids. Jessica's mother who'd driven in from upstate. Jessica's sister and brother-in-law. 2 friends I didn't recognize. 9 people celebrating. Laughing. Toasting with wine that probably cost more per bottle than my weekly grocery budget. And me, I was eating $2 soup in a kitchen that smelled like cleaning products, looking at photos of the family I'd sacrificed everything for. I scrolled through the comments. 184 and counting. Congratulations, Queen, you deserve it. Cheers to successful women. What a beautiful family. Beautiful family. No one noticed someone was missing. No one asked, where's Grandma? Because I'd been invisible for so long, even strangers on the internet didn't see the gap where I should have been. I closed the app, set the phone down, looked at my cold soup, and then something strange happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything or break down. Instead, an icy calm washed over me like a winter wind that freezes everything it touches. My hands stopped shaking. My breathing steadied. And somewhere deep inside, in a place I didn't even know existed anymore, a voice spoke clearly. Enough, that's all it said. Just one word. But it was the loudest sound I'd heard in 3 years. I stood up slowly, my joints protesting. I walked to my bedroom, the small guest room at the end of the hall that had become my space, and opened the closet. Because what they didn't know, what none of them sitting at that expensive restaurant table could possibly imagine, was that I had been preparing for this moment for 6 months. And this time I wasn't going to heat up their leftovers. This time I was going to disappear. And when they came back tonight drunk on wine and their own self-importance, what they found behind that door would change everything. But to understand why I made that decision, you need to know how I got here. How a 68-year-old widow who gave up everything for her family ended up being treated like unpaid help. Let me take you back 3 years and 4 months to the day I lost everything and gave away what little I had left, not knowing I was signing away my own dignity. 3 years and 4 months ago, I buried my husband, Robert Thompson. Pancreatic cancer took him in 6 brutal months. 6 months from diagnosis to the funeral from we need to run some tests to standing over his grave while a stranger in a black suit recited prayers that meant nothing, because God had already taken the only thing that mattered. We'd been married for 42 years. 42 years in that suburban house with the brick facade and the garden I'd maintained every spring. 42 years of memories pressed into every corner, Ryan's height marks on the kitchen door frame, the burn mark on the counter from the time Robert tried to make me breakfast in bed for our anniversary, the loose floorboard in the hallway that creaked whenever anyone walked to the bathroom at night. After the funeral, the silence became unbearable. I'd wake up reaching for him and find cold sheets. I'd make coffee and pour 2 cups out of habit, then stare at the extra mug until it went cold. I'd sit in his recliner and smell his Old Spice on the upholstery and break down crying in the middle of the afternoon, so grateful no one was there to see me fall apart. Ryan started visiting more. Sweet of him, I thought. My boy checking on his grieving mother. He came over 2 weeks after the funeral with Jessica on his arm. They found me in the kitchen, surrounded by casserole dishes from the church ladies that I hadn't had the appetite to touch. "Mom," Ryan said, settling into the chair across from me. He had that smile, the one he'd used since he was 6 years old, whenever he wanted something. Charming and gentle, and just a little bit guilty. "Jessica and I have been talking." Jessica nodded, her coral-painted nails wrapped around a coffee mug. Everything about her was put together, her sleek ponytail, her pressed blazer, her confident posture. She was a junior manager, then ambitious and sharp. I'd always thought she was a bit cold, but Ryan loved her, and that was enough for me. "We're looking for a house," Ryan continued. "Something bigger. The kids are growing and the apartment is getting cramped, but the market right now—" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "The down payment for anything decent is astronomical. We've been saving for a year, but we're only halfway there." I knew where this was going before he said it. "How much do you need?" I asked. Ryan looked down at his coffee. "If you sold this place, Mom, you could come live with us. You wouldn't be alone anymore. The kids adore you. We could help each other out." "It's a win-win," Jessica added, her smile bright. "You'd be with family. You could help us with Tyler and Emma. You know how much they love their grandma. And we'd take care of you, like a real family should." That phrase, real family, I held on to it like a life raft, because the truth was I was drowning in that empty house. Every room screamed Robert's absence. Every night was too long. Every morning I woke up and forgot for 3 seconds that he was gone, and then remembered, and the grief hit me all over again, like a fist to the chest. The idea of not being alone anymore, of having purpose again, of being needed. I signed the papers 3 weeks later. The house sold for $120,000. It wasn't much. The neighborhood had gone downhill, and we'd never renovated, but it was everything Robert and I had built together. I gave Ryan $68,000 for the down payment on their new place. The rest went into a savings account. My safety net, I told myself. What I didn't do, and this is the decision that haunts me to this day, was put my name on the deed. Ryan said it wasn't necessary. "The house is for all of us, Mom. Why complicate things with paperwork? You know it's yours, too." And I, like a fool, trusted him. The notary, Mr. Harrison, a kind man who'd handled Robert's will, pulled me aside before we signed. "Mrs. Thompson," he said quietly, "since you're providing the full down payment, I'd recommend putting the property in your name initially. You can always transfer it later, but this protects you if anything happens." "That's a good idea," I'd said. And we did it. The deed went in my name, Margaret Ann Thompson. Ryan had agreed easily. "It's better this way, Mom. Safer for you. We'll do the transfer after we settle in." We never did. For the first few months, he'd mention it occasionally. We should get to the notary's office, change those papers over. But there was always something more urgent. Unpacking. Getting the kids settled in their new schools. Work deadlines. Life. Eventually, he stopped bringing it up. And I unconsciously, or maybe some wise part of me knew, I never reminded him. The first 6 months were tolerable. Almost pleasant even. I had purpose again. I woke at 5:00 a.m. and made coffee the way Ryan liked it, strong with just a hint of cinnamon. I'd cook breakfast, scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, whole wheat toast. I'd wake Tyler and Emma, brush Emma's hair until it shone, pack their lunches with the crusts cut off the sandwiches just the way they liked. Jessica would breeze through the kitchen at 7:30, always impeccable in her business suits, trailing expensive perfume that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. She'd grab a coffee to go, sometimes throw a "thanks Emil" over her shoulder without making eye contact. Ryan would leave at 8:00 occasionally, kissing my forehead. "Thanks, Mom." You're the best. And I'd stay behind clearing plates, doing laundry, vacuuming the floors that never seemed clean enough for Jessica's standards. Because every evening when she returned, she'd inspect. She'd run her finger along the shelves looking for dust. She'd open the refrigerator and frown if something wasn't in its exact place. She'd check the bathrooms like a health inspector, pointing out water spots on the mirrors. Mill, there are streaks on the glass. Mill, you use too much detergent. It's expensive. Mill, did you really need to buy name brand cereal? Never Maggie, never Mrs. Thompson like the delivery drivers called me. Just Emil as if it were a title, not a name. But the kids loved me. That was real. Tyler would barrel through the door after school and wrap his arms around my waist. Emma would fall asleep on my lap during story time, her thumb in her mouth, her little hand clutching my sweater. Those moments made everything else bearable. Until they didn't. It started small, little cracks in the facade. In December, the first Christmas in the new house, we took a family photo in front of the tree. Jessica arranged everyone, Ryan, the kids herself, in perfect positions. Then she turned to me. Emiel, would you take the photo? You have steadier hands. I stood behind the camera while they smiled like a Norman Rockwell painting. That photo ended up framed in the living room, professionally matted, hung in the place of honor above the fireplace. I wasn't in it. In March, I went grocery shopping and bought the kids' favorite cereal, the kind with the cartoon mascot, $8 a box. Jessica found the receipt and confronted me in the kitchen. Why did you buy name brand? She asked, holding up the receipt like evidence in a trial. Generic is fine. We're trying to save money. I stared at her. This woman who'd just bought herself a $300 leather handbag, who ordered wine at restaurants that cost $75 a bottle, who was lecturing me about an $8 box of cereal. I pay $920 a month toward the mortgage, I said quietly. I think I can buy my grandchildren the cereal they like. Her eyes narrowed. The mortgage is $1,400. Ryan pays his share. $480, I said, he said. Ryan pays $480. I pay the rest. From my pension. Jessica's mouth opened, then closed. She set the receipt down and walked away without another word. But after that, things got worse. In June, we threw Tyler's 9th birthday party. Jessica invited half his class parents I'd never met. When they arrived, she introduced me to each one the same way. This is Ryan's mom. She helps us with the house. Not Grandma, not Margaret, just Ryan's mom who helps with the house. Like I was the housekeeper, they were generous enough to give room and board. In September, Jessica's college friends came over for a girls' night. I made appetizers, little phyllo cups with spinach and cheese, the recipe I'd perfected over 20 years of hosting. I brought them out on a platter, set them on the coffee table. Jessica barely glanced at me. Thanks, MIL. I retreated to my room, but I could hear them through the wall. You're so lucky, one of them said. Built-in childcare. I know, right? Jessica laughed. It's like having a live-in nanny, except she actually cares about the kids. Frees me up to focus on my career. That's the secret. You can't have it all unless someone else is handling the domestic stuff. And she doesn't charge you? Charge me. She lives here rent-free. They laughed. All of them. Like I was a piece of furniture they'd gotten a good deal on. I pressed my hands against my ears, but I couldn't unhear it. The final straw, the moment I knew I needed an exit strategy, came in October, 3 months before that promotional dinner. I was in the kitchen, charging my old phone, the one from before Ryan had given me a newer model. So you can use WhatsApp easier, Mom. I'd kept the old one, used it as a backup, kept it plugged in on the counter while I cooked. Jessica came in talking on her cell to her sister. She didn't realize the old phone was recording. I'd accidentally left the voice memo app open. No, seriously, Jessica was saying, it's like free maid service. She cooks, cleans, watches the kids. And I don't have to pay her because she's family. Ryan feels guilty sometimes, but I remind him she's better off here than alone in some nursing home. And honestly, when she dies, that pension money will go towards something useful. We'll have the whole house. I stood there frozen halfway through chopping onions, the knife in my hand. When she dies. The whole house. I didn't confront her. I didn't say anything. I just quietly saved that recording and started looking for others. Over the next 6 months, I found 17. 17 times Jessica talked about me like I was livestock. 17 times she planned my eventual disposal. 17 times my son stayed silent while his wife plotted to warehouse me in a cheap nursing home the moment I became inconvenient. I copied every file. I saved every cruel word. And I started planning. That Thursday morning, Jessica came downstairs practically glowing. She was wearing her pearl gray suit, the one she saved for important meetings, and a smile that could light up the whole house. "I got it!" she shouted, bursting into the kitchen where I was flipping pancakes. Ryan came down behind her, still tying his tie. "What happened, Mommy?" Emma asked through a mouthful of breakfast. "I got promoted, sweetie. Your mommy is the new regional operations manager, the youngest in the company's history." Ryan swept her into his arms and spun her around. "I knew you'd get it. I knew that position was yours." I stood at the stove, spatula in hand. "Congratulations, Jessica," I said, and I meant it. Whatever else had happened between us, I didn't wish her professional failure. I knew how hard she'd worked. She barely glanced at me. "Thanks, Emil." Then back to Ryan's embrace. "We have to celebrate. Big. Like I deserve." "The Skyline Grill," Ryan suggested, his eyes bright. "Yes." Jessica's whole face lit up. "The one with the view of the entire city. The place I've been dying to try. Money is no object tonight. This is huge." Tyler raised his hand like he was in school. "Am I going?" "Of course, champ." Ryan ruffled his hair. "The whole family." My heart skipped. The whole family. That meant me, right? I set the pancakes on the table and wiped my hands on my apron. "What time should I make the reservation?" I asked, trying to sound casual to hide the hope creeping into my voice. Jessica looked at me like she'd just remembered I was in the room. "Reservation for what?" "For the celebration dinner, at the Skyline Grill." There was a pause, just a heartbeat. But in that silence, I saw Jessica and Ryan exchange a glance, one of those wordless marital communications that said everything. "Oh no, Emil," Jessica said, her smile never wavering. "It's an intimate thing. You know, just us the kids, my mom. Direct family." Direct family. Those two words hit me like a slap. I wasn't direct family. I was the mother who'd given birth to Ryan, raised him, sacrificed everything, but I wasn't direct family. "I understand," I heard myself say. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from far away. "Besides," Jessica continued, spreading butter on her toast, "someone needs to stay with the house, right? We can't just leave it empty. And you cook so well, I'm sure you'll make yourself something delicious." Ryan said nothing. My son, the boy I'd rocked to sleep, whose tears I'd dried, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, he stared at his plate and said absolutely nothing. "Right, honey," Jessica prompted. "Right," Ryan mumbled. I turned back to the stove, even though there was nothing left to cook. My hands were shaking. They all left at 11:00 a.m. Jessica changed outfits 3 times. The kids were excited, dressed in their Sunday best. Ryan kissed my forehead on his way out, so automatic, so meaningless, he didn't even meet my eyes. "Don't wait up for us, Mom. We'll be late." The door closed behind them, and the house fell into a silence so heavy I could barely breathe. I wandered through the rooms like a ghost. The living room with its sectional sofa I'd picked out and paid for $3,200 charged to my credit card because Jessica loved it, but the timing wasn't right for their budget. The dining room with its glass table that I wiped down every single day that I'd watched them eat at while I stood in the kitchen cleaning up. The master bedroom with its renovated bathroom, $500 of my savings, because Jessica desperately needed the upgrade, because after all, this was our family home, wasn't it? Everything was spotless. Everything was in order. And I was completely alone. I made myself soup, the cheap kind in the styrofoam cups. I sat at the kitchen table, not the dining room, because the help doesn't eat in the dining room, and I stirred that soup, and I thought about how I'd arrived here. At 7:00 p.m., I made the mistake of opening Instagram. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed to confirm what I already knew. Maybe I'm a masochist. Maybe some part of me hoped I was wrong, that I'd see photos and they'd somehow include me, that this was all a misunderstanding. The first photo appeared posted 16 minutes ago. Jessica in that red dress, radiant, holding up a champagne flute. Thanks to everyone for joining me on this special day. The second photo, Tyler and Emma with enormous plates of food, shrimp the size of my fist, laughing happy, having the time of their lives. The third photo, the whole table. I counted them carefully. 9 people. Jessica's mother, her sister and brother-in-law, 2 friends I didn't recognize, and my family, Ryan, Tyler, Emma. 9 people celebrating while I ate instant soup. I scrolled through the comments. 184 in the first hour. You deserve it all. Such a beautiful family. Congratulations, Queen. No one noticed someone was missing. Why would they? I'd been invisible for so long. Then my phone buzzed with a text. Jessica, MIL, remember to heat up the leftovers in the fridge. Don't waste them. I stared at those words for a full minute. Heat up the leftovers. I opened the refrigerator. There they were, half a rotisserie chicken from yesterday, rice from Monday, vegetables I'd bought and cooked myself. Leftovers. Scraps. That's what they thought I deserved. I closed the fridge and took a deep breath. Then I typed my reply, okay. 2 letters. But in those 2 letters was a decision that had been forming for 6 months since that first recording, since the first time I truly understood how little I meant to them. I walked upstairs to my room and opened the closet. The suitcase was right where I'd left it, pushed to the back behind my winter coats. The same battered burgundy suitcase Robert and I had used for our last vacation to the coast 3 years before he got sick. It still had the hotel tag attached to the handle. But before I started packing, I needed to gather the one thing that would give me power. I moved the shoe boxes in the back of the closet, the sensible flats I wore every day, the dress shoes I never had occasion to wear anymore. Behind them, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, was my old sewing box. The one my mother had given me when I got married, painted with faded roses, the hinges slightly rusty. I lifted the lid and removed the spools of thread, the needles, the measuring tape. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, was a hardcover spiral-bound notebook. For 6 months, I'd been documenting everything. I opened the notebook now, my hands trembling slightly. The pages were filled with my cramped handwriting receipts, taped down bank statements, highlighted. August 2022, down payment on house, $68,000. September 2022, refrigerator, $1.890. September 2022, washer and dryer, $2.450, or October 2022. Living room furniture, sectional sofa, coffee table, end tables, $200. The list went on, and on, and on. November 2022, plumbing repair, $870. December 2022, $55. TV for living room, $200. January 2023, new mattresses for all bedrooms, $3,800. March 2023, master bathroom remodel, $6,500, and then the monthly expenses. Mortgage payment, $1,400 month. Ryan's contribution, $480 a month. My contribution, $920 a month. I'd been paying $920 a month for 3 years. From my pension of $1,600 a month, leaving me $680 for everything else, my own food, my clothes, my medications, any personal expenses. While Jessica bought 300 bottles of wine. I did the math on the last page, my pencil pressing hard enough to indent the paper, down payment and initial purchases, $84,730 monthly mortgage, 36 months, X 920, $33,120. Additional repairs and improvements, $18,950. Total $136,800. Nearly everything I'd received from selling the house Robert and I had built together over 42 years of marriage. Invested in a house where they treated me worse than a stranger. But the most important thing was at the very bottom of the sewing box. I reached in and pulled out a manila envelope yellowed with time. Inside were the original property deeds. My hands shook as I unfolded them, even though I'd looked at them a dozen times in the past 6 months, just to make sure they were real. There it was in Mr. Harrison's careful notary script. Property located at 847 Jurist Circle, Coyoacan, community owner Margaret Ann Thompson. My name. Only my name. When we'd bought the house, Mr. Harrison had insisted, "Since you're providing the full down payment, Mrs. Thompson, it's safest to put it in your name initially. You can do the transfer later, but this protects you." Ryan had agreed so easily. "Makes sense, Mom. We'll handle the paperwork later." We never did. And now that I'd heard Jessica planning to warehouse me in a nursing home, now that I understood I was just free labor to be discarded when I became inconvenient, I was grateful we'd never made that transfer. I carefully put the deed back in the envelope. Then I pulled out my old phone, the one I'd been using to capture evidence. 17 audio files. I plugged the phone into my laptop and began copying everything to a USB drive. As the files transferred, I listened to snippets, forcing myself to hear the truth. File 4. Jessica to her sister, November 2024. It's like having free maid service. She gets up early, does everything, and the best part, I don't pay her or give her days off because she's family. File 9. Jessica to Ryan, January 2025. Your mom is getting really annoying, Daniel. She wants opinions on everything. When she dies, that pension goes towards something useful. Maybe it's time she found her own place. You don't have to kick her out, just suggest she'd be happier somewhere else. Ryan's response, I'll think about it. My son was going to think about it. By the time all 17 files were copied to the USB drive, tears were streaming down my face. But they weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were tears of rage, and clarity, and determination. I wiped my face and stood up straighter. Then I started packing. It was 10:15 p.m. when I made the first call. Hello? My niece Olivia's voice was alert despite the hour she'd always been a night owl. Olivia, it's Aunt Maggie. I need your help. It's urgent. There was a pause. Aunt Maggie, are you okay? Your voice sounds strange. I'm perfect. For the first time in 3 years, I'm perfect. But I need legal help. Can you come to your office early tomorrow? I'll explain everything then. Aunt Maggie, you're scaring me. What's going on? So I told her. The down payment. The deed still in my name. The recordings. The text about leftovers. When I finished, Olivia let out a low whistle. Let me get this straight. The house is entirely in your name. They don't know it. And you have documented proof of everything you've invested. Every receipt, every bank transfer, everything. Aunt Maggie, Olivia's voice was awed. This is legal gold. You have a rock-solid case. You can evict them, charge back rent, sue for emotional damages, whatever you want. I'll be at your office at 8:00 a.m. I'll be waiting. And Aunt Maggie, bring everything. Every document, every recording, every piece of evidence. The second call was harder. Hello, Mr. Harrison's voice was thick with sleep. Mr. Harrison, it's Maggie Thompson. I'm so sorry to call this late. Mrs. Thompson, is everything all right? I need you to review some documents tomorrow about the house on Jurist Circle. There was a pause. Then, did something happen with Ryan and his wife? You could say that. Mrs. Thompson, I warned you not to transfer that house until you were absolutely certain. I know. You were right. That's why I'm calling. I need your advice. My office 10:00 a.m. tomorrow. Bring everything. The third call made my voice break. Maggie, my friend Trish sounded concerned. What are you doing up at this hour? Trish, is that room you were going to rent still available? The one upstairs. Yes. Why, Maggie? What's wrong? Can I move in tomorrow? Silence. Then, what happened? And I told her. Not everything, I didn't have the strength, but enough. You come tomorrow, Trish said, her voice fierce. Whenever you want. The room is yours. I'll be waiting. After I hung up, I allowed myself exactly 3 minutes to cry. Real crying, the kind that comes from your chest that makes your whole body shake. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and returned to my room. It was 11:30 p.m. According to their Instagram stories, they were still on dessert, some chocolate tower that cost $34 a slice. I figured they'd be home around midnight, maybe 1:00 a.m. if they kept celebrating. I had time. I pulled the suitcase onto the bed and started really packing. My clothes, my photos of Robert, the woven blanket my mother had made, my wedding rosary, my Italian coffee maker. Each item I packed was a piece of myself I was taking back. Then I sat at the small desk in the corner and pulled out a piece of stationery, the nice kind with my initials embossed at the top that I'd bought years ago and never used because who writes real letters anymore? I picked up a pen and wrote, Ryan. For 3 years I lived in this house as an invisible maid. I cooked, cleaned, cared for your children, paid bills, and swallowed humiliations in silence. Tonight, while you celebrated Jessica's promotion and texted me about heating up leftovers, I made a decision. I will no longer be the ghost of this family. Documents are on your nightstand. Read them carefully. We will see each other soon with lawyers present. I have loved you my whole life. But love doesn't mean letting you walk all over me. Mom. I folded the letter carefully and placed it on Ryan's pillow. Then I took the manila envelope with the deed and placed a yellow sticky note on top. This house is in my name. It always was. Proof of every $1 I invested, $136,800. See you at the notary's office. I left the envelope on Ryan's nightstand where he couldn't possibly miss it. At 11:58 p.m., I carried my suitcase down the stairs, my 68-year-old legs protesting but holding firm. I paused at the front door and looked back one last time at the house I'd helped build, at the floors I'd mopped 1,000 times, at the walls I'd painted, at the kitchen where I'd cooked countless meals that no one appreciated. I didn't feel sad. I felt free. I locked the door with my key, the key I was taking with me, because after all, it was my house. and stepped out into the cool March night. From the corner, I called an Uber. The driver helped me with my suitcase. "Long trip, ma'am?" he asked as we pulled away. I watched the house recede in the darkness, imagining what would happen in an hour or two. Them coming home drunk and laughing, opening the door, calling for me, finding silence, reading the letter, opening the envelope, understanding. "No," I told the driver, a small smile playing at my lips. "Not a long trip. A journey back to myself." I wasn't there when they came home, but Tyler told me everything 3 days later when he showed up at Trish's house with tears streaming down his face. Let me reconstruct that night as my grandson described it, his voice breaking with each detail. It was 1:23 a.m. when Ryan's BMW pulled into the gated community. The security guard waved them through with a friendly salute. Later he told me they'd been laughing loudly, music turned all the way up, windows down, despite the cool night air. Jessica had consumed 3 glasses of red wine, 2 champagnes, and a tequila shot for the final toast. Ryan wasn't much better, 2 double whiskeys and several beers throughout the evening. The kids were passed out in the back seat, Tyler with his head against the window, Emma clutching her stuffed rabbit. They parked crookedly in the driveway. Jessica stumbled, getting out her heels, catching on the pavement. She laughed that high, unrestrained laugh of someone who'd had too much to drink. Ryan caught her by the waist, pulling her close, kissing her neck. "Regional manager," he murmured against her skin. "And you're the husband of the year," she giggled, hanging on his arm. They weaved up the front walk, Ryan fumbling with his keys. Jessica shushed him, pressing a finger to his lips. "Don't wake your mom." "Let her sleep," Ryan agreed, finally getting the key in the lock. "She deserves the rest after holding down the fort all night." The irony of those words would hit him in about 3 minutes. The door swung open. The house was dark except for the hallway light I'd left on. I always left it on so they wouldn't trip. Old habits. "Mom," Ryan called out as he entered, his voice thick and slurred. "We're home." Silence. Jessica flipped on the living room light. And then they saw it. The room was different. Not empty, not trashed. Just different. The Persian rug was gone, the one I'd brought from my old house, the one my mother had purchased on a trip south 50 years ago. The embroidered throw pillows were missing from the couch, the ones I'd made myself over months of patient needlework. The landscape paintings on the walls had vanished, my paintings gifts from Robert on our anniversaries. "What the hell?" Jessica frowned, her drunken haze beginning to lift. "Did your mom rearrange things?" Ryan walked to the kitchen, flipping on lights as he went. The Italian espresso maker I'd brought from my old house, gone. The ceramic mug collection I'd built over years, gone. My apron always hanging on the hook by the refrigerator, missing. "Mom," he called out louder now. "Where are you?" They climbed the stairs, their footsteps suddenly too loud in the quiet house. Jessica was sobering up fast, adrenaline cutting through the alcohol fog. Ryan pushed open my bedroom door. The light revealed a bed that was made with military precision. I'd always been meticulous about that. But it was empty. The closet door hung open, showing bare hangers. The nightstand had been cleared of my reading glasses, my books, my rosary beads, the framed photo of Robert, as if I had never existed in that room. "What the fuck?" Emily whispered. Ryan spun around, checking the bathroom. My toothbrush gone, my face cream gone, the cheap rose-scented perfume I bought at the drugstore gone. He ran back to the bedroom, and that's when he saw it. On his pillow, a folded piece of paper. His hands trembled as he picked it up. Jessica read over his shoulder, her breath sharp with wine and panic. I can imagine his face as he read my words. Tyler said his father's expression changed, like clouds passing over the sun, from confusion to disbelief to horror. "What does it say?" Jessica demanded. "Did she leave? Did your mom actually leave?" But Ryan couldn't answer. He'd seen the manila envelope on his nightstand. He opened it with fumbling fingers that couldn't quite coordinate. He pulled out the documents, the property deed, and his eyes scanned the page once, twice, before the words finally registered. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no, no." "What is it?" Jessica snatched the papers from his hands. Her eyes went wide. The color drained from her face so fast I bet she swayed on her feet. This can't be real." "The house is in her name." Ryan's voice was hollow dead. "The whole house. It was always in her name." "But you paid the down payment. You told me you—" "She paid the down payment." Ryan sat down heavily on the bed, his head in his hands. She sold her house. $68,000. I didn't have anything. It all came from her. Jessica looked at the yellow sticky note attached to the deed. Her lips moved as she read 136,800 to be exact. 136. Jessica swayed. Are you telling me your mother invested over $130,000 in this house, and we never transferred the deed? We never transferred it, Ryan confirmed, his voice breaking. Jesus Christ, Emily, we never did the transfer. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Jessica started pacing her heels, clicking frantically on the hardwood. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. We've lived here for 3 years. 3 years. This is my house. It's her house. Ryan looked up, his eyes red. Legally, it was always her house. Then you make her give it to you. She's your mother. She has an obligation. An obligation, Ryan's voice rose. Like the obligation we had to treat her with respect, to not exclude her from dinner tonight, to not make her feel like a servant in her own goddamn house. Jessica froze, her mouth open. You sent her that text, Ryan continued, his voice cracking. That fucking text about heating up the leftovers. I didn't. It wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be what humiliating, because that's exactly what it was. For the first time in 3 years, my son defended me. But it was too late. Tyler appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, his hair sticking up. Dad, why are you yelling, where's Grandma? Ryan looked at his son, and Tyler said his father's face just crumpled. Emma's voice floated up from downstairs. I want Grandma, where's Grandma? Ryan dialed my number. Once, twice, 5 times, 10 times. I'd silenced his contact hours ago. His calls went straight to voicemail. He sent texts, his fingers jabbing at the screen. Mom, please answer me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom, we can fix this. Please. Mom, please don't do this. None of them received a reply, because at that moment I was at Trisha's house, wrapped in a clean blanket that smelled like lavender fabric softener, drinking chamomile tea with honey, sleeping the deepest and most peaceful sleep I'd had in 3 years. Jessica tried one last desperate card around 3:00 a.m. after Tyler and Emma had finally gone back to sleep. We'll call a lawyer tomorrow, she said, her voice shaking. We can contest this. We've been living here for 3 years. That gives us rights. Squatters' rights or good faith possession or something. Ryan looked at her with an expression Tyler described as like Dad was seeing Mom for the first time and didn't like what he saw. You still don't get it, he said quietly. She has everything documented. Every dollar. Every receipt. And worse, he ran his hands through his hair. The recordings, Jessica. She mentioned recordings. What recordings? But Ryan just shook his head and walked out of the room. He went to Tyler's bedroom and sat on the edge of his son's bed. Tyler pretended to be asleep, but he felt his father's hand stroking his hair, heard his father's quiet sobs. I ruined everything, Ryan whispered to his 9-year-old son. I lost Grandma because I was a coward and an idiot. That night, nobody slept in the house they thought was theirs, and while they wandered through rooms now empty of my presence, trying to understand how everything had fallen apart in one night, I slept in peace. Because sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon, and sometimes disappearing is the only way to finally be seen. I woke at 7:00 a.m. to sunlight streaming through lace curtains and the smell of fresh coffee drifting up from downstairs. It had been 3 years since I'd woken up without a knot in my stomach. I lay there for a moment listening. Birds singing outside, a car passing on the street, Trish humming in the kitchen. Normal sounds, peaceful sounds. No one was waiting downstairs demanding breakfast. No one would inspect my cleaning. No one would give me orders disguised as suggestions. I stretched in bed, feeling my joints protest less than usual. Even my body seemed to know I was free. My phone sat on the nightstand, 32 notifications. I picked it up and scrolled through them without opening anything. 23 missed calls from Ryan. 15 WhatsApp messages. 4 texts from Jessica. 2 from numbers I didn't recognize, probably relatives who'd already heard the gossip. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened Facebook, the platform I rarely used, filled with old contacts from my book club neighbors, from my old suburb, distant cousins, high school friends I'd reconnected with online. 437 friends who barely saw my posts because I never posted anything. Until now, I typed slowly, carefully. After 3 years of caring for a family that made me invisible, I learned that self-love isn't selfishness, it's survival. My finger hovered over the post button for just a moment. Then I pressed it and closed the app. Downstairs, Trish had made chilaquiles verdes with refried beans and coffee with cinnamon. My favorite breakfast, the one I used to make for Robert on Sunday mornings. "How did you sleep?" Trish asked, pouring me orange juice. "Like I haven't slept in years." "And what's next?" I took a sip of coffee. Real coffee, not the instant kind I'd been rationing. "Now comes the legal part." At 8:00 a.m. sharp, I walked into Olivia's office in a converted brownstone downtown. My niece greeted me with a fierce hug and a steaming cup of coffee in a real mug, not a paper cup. "Aunt Maggie, you're a legend. I couldn't sleep last night thinking about your case." "Did you bring everything?" she asked, gesturing to the conference table. I set down my bag and began pulling out documents like a magician with an endless scarf. The manila envelope with the deed. The spiral notebook with 3 years of documented expenses. The USB drive with the recordings. The old phone with screenshots and photos. Olivia spread everything across the table like a detective building a case. Her eyes gleamed with professional excitement. "This is it, Aunt Maggie. This is perfect." She picked up the deed first, reading it carefully. "Property in your name. No co-owners. No ambiguity." She set it down and reached for the notebook. "And you have documentation of every dollar invested. Every receipt, every bank transfer, every check I wrote." She flipped through pages, her expression shifting from impressed to indignant. "Down payment, $68,000, monthly mortgage contributions, furniture, repairs." She looked up. "Over $136,000. $136,800 to be exact." Olivia set down the notebook and picked up the USB drive. "And the recordings. 17 files. Conversations where Jessica discusses me like I'm livestock, where she plans how to get rid of me, where she laughs with her friends about having free maid service." Olivia plugged the USB into her laptop. She clicked on a random file number 7. Jessica's voice filled the office crystal clear. "The best part is I don't have to pay her because she's family. Ryan feels guilty sometimes, but I remind him she's better off here than rotting in some apartment alone. When the old woman dies, that pension check can finally go towards something useful." Olivia's hand clenched into a fist. She clicked on another file number 12. Jessica talking to Ryan. "Your mother is getting in the way of my life. She needs to understand this is our house, our family. Maybe you should start dropping hints about retirement communities. You know, for her own good." And Ryan's response, "I'll think about it." Olivia stopped the playback and looked at me, her eyes shining with angry tears. "Aunt Maggie, with this evidence, we can do whatever you want. Immediate eviction. Back rent collection 3 years at market rate, which would be around $2,500 a month. Emotional damages for elder abuse. We could take them for everything." "What I want," I said slowly, choosing my words carefully, "is for them to understand what they lost. I want them to feel what I felt. And I want them to learn that love is not a free pass to treat people like garbage." Olivia nodded understanding. "Then we're going to give them a lesson they'll never forget." We spent the next 3 hours planning. Legal summons, property valuation, calculations of fair market rent, documentation of financial exploitation. By 11:00 a.m., Olivia had drafted the official notice. She read it aloud. "Margaret Ann Thompson, legal owner of the property located at 847 Jurist Circle, requires the presence of Mr. Ryan Thompson and Mrs. Jessica Brooks Thompson at the offices of Harrison Notary Services on Monday, March 18th at 10:00 a.m. to resolve matters of property ownership and occupancy. Attendance is mandatory." She hit send at 11:47 a.m. "Now," she said with a satisfied smile, "we wait for them to panic." My phone exploded around noon. I'd gone back to Trish's house for lunch, homemade chicken soup, nothing fancy, just something warm and comforting. Trish had gone to the grocery store, leaving me alone in her sunny kitchen. That's when the messages started coming rapid fire. "Ryan, 12:14 p.m. Mom, please. This is a misunderstanding." Ryan, 12:31 p.m. "I didn't know the house was in your name. I swear I didn't know." Ryan, 1:45 p.m. "The kids are asking for you. Tyler won't stop crying." Ryan, 2:52 p.m. "Mom, please, we can fix this. Just talk to me." Ryan, 4:18 p.m. "Mom, you're my mom. We can't end like this." Ryan, 6:03 p.m. "I love you. Please don't throw our family away." Jessica's messages had a different tone. Jessica, 1:07 p.m. "Mother-in-law, I think this is getting out of proportion. Jessica, 3:22 p.m. If you were bothered by the text last night, I apologize. It was meant as a reminder, not an insult. Jessica, 5:45 p.m. Ryan is very upset. The children are confused. Please reconsider this. Jessica, 7:30 p.m. Can't we talk like civilized adults? I noticed how her tone shifted from MIL to mother-in-law, more formal, more respectful. Fear had manners. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, around 3:00 p.m., I checked my Facebook post. 243 reactions, 189 comments. I started scrolling and my throat tightened. Beatrice, I didn't know you were going through this. I always saw you as such a strong woman. I'm so glad you found your voice. Rosa, my old neighbor. My friend, I've been living with my son and his wife for 2 years. I identify so much with this. You made me cry. Thank you for sharing. Patricia from my book club. My mom went through something similar. She ended up in the hospital from stress. I wish she'd had your courage. A cousin I hadn't seen in years. This hit me hard. All older women deserve respect, not crumbs. Guadalupe, a childhood friend. The comments kept coming. Women sharing their own stories. Women living with their adult children being treated as unpaid caregivers. Women who had lost their homes, their savings, their dignity. My small post had become a refuge for silenced voices. At 5:00 p.m., my sister called. Maggie, what's going on? Ryan called me sobbing. He says you left the house. I left my house, I corrected, where I was living as unpaid help. But he's your son. It's family. Family doesn't humiliate you, Susan. Family doesn't make you feel invisible. Family doesn't send you mocking texts about heating up leftovers while they celebrate without you. Silence on the other end. They did that. I told her everything. Not the abbreviated version, the whole story. Every detail of the last 3 years. When I finished, my sister was crying. Forgive me, she whispered. I thought you were happy there. I thought it was a good arrangement for everyone. Everyone thought that because I smiled and didn't complain. But smiling doesn't mean you're happy, Susan. It just means you're surviving. Around 7:00 p.m., a curious thing happened. Trish's phone rang. It was Mrs. Sullivan, our old neighbor from my suburban days. Trish, is Maggie with you? I just saw her Facebook post and I wanted to reach out. Tell her the whole neighborhood knows what happened and we're on her side. How do you know what happened? Trish asked. Mrs. Sullivan laughed, not a happy sound. Jessica went to the grocery store this afternoon. She looked terrible, red eyes, no makeup, sweatpants. Mrs. Carmela asked what was wrong and Jessica just exploded. Started crying in the produce section about how you abandoned them, how you're being selfish and ungrateful, how they took you in and you repaid them by stealing the house. And what did Mrs. Carmela say? She said Honey Maggie owns that house. She paid for it. She has every right to leave whenever she wants. And frankly, if my daughter-in-law treated me the way you treated her, I'd have done worse than just leave. I felt tears prick my eyes, but they were good tears. The other ladies in line agreed, Mrs. Sullivan continued. Told Jessica she should be ashamed. Jessica ran out without buying anything. For the first time in 3 years, the community that had silently watched my suffering had raised their voices. That night before bed, I checked Facebook again. 420 reactions, 352 comments, and 23 private messages from women telling me their stories. Stories of mistreated mothers-in-law, of forgotten mothers, of exploited grandmothers. One woman wrote, Margaret, thank you for speaking up. You gave me the courage to leave my daughter's house. I'm looking for an apartment tomorrow. Another said, I've been taking care of my grandchildren for free for 5 years while my daughter-in-law goes out partying. After reading your story tomorrow, I'm telling her she can't keep taking advantage of me. My story, my pain, my broken silence was giving other women strength to find their voices, and that more than any house or deed or money filled my heart. At 11:00 p.m., my phone buzzed one last time. Ryan, Mom, we received the lawyer's summons. Please don't do this. We're family. For the first time in 48 hours, I replied, Family is what you build with respect, son, not with blood and obligations. See you Monday at the notary's office. Then I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Sunday morning, 9:00 a.m. The doorbell rang. Trish answered it while I was upstairs brushing my teeth. I heard the voices before I saw them. You can't see her, Trish said firmly. She's my mother. Ryan's voice rough with sleeplessness. "She's a woman who's finally resting after 3 years of exploitation, and I'm not going to let you disturb her." I came down the stairs slowly. Ryan looked terrible deep shadows under his eyes, unshaven, wearing the same wrinkled shirt from Friday night. He looked like he'd aged a decade in 2 days. "Mom," his voice broke when he saw me. "Ryan, please, we need to talk." Trish looked at me. I nodded. "It's okay. Let him in." We sat in Trish's small living room, chintz sofa, lace doilies, photos of her grandchildren on every surface. She stayed nearby, a silent guardian. Ryan didn't know where to start. He ran his hands through his hair repeatedly, bit his lips, clasped and unclasped his hands. "I didn't know," he finally said. "I didn't know the house was in your name." "Yes, you did." He looked up, startled. "You were there when we signed the papers, Ryan. You heard Mr. Harrison explain that it was safest to put it in my name initially. You agreed. You said we'd transfer it later. But I forgot. You didn't forget. You stopped asking about it because it was easier. Because some part of you knew that if the house stayed in my name, I had security. And you were okay with that as long as it didn't inconvenience you." Ryan covered his face with his hands. "Do you know how much you invested?" I asked quietly. He looked up. "The deed says $136,800. "Do you know where that money came from? From selling your house in the suburbs. From selling the house where your father and I lived for 42 years, where we raised you, where you learned to ride a bike in the driveway, where your father died in our bed holding my hand." My voice cracked. "I sold my memories, Ryan. I sold the last piece of your father I had left, and I did it for you." Ryan started crying deep, wrenching sobs that shook his shoulders. I pulled out my notebook from my bag and placed it on the coffee table. "Open it." With trembling hands, Ryan opened the notebook. He began reading, his lips moving silently as he processed each entry. Refrigerator, $1,890. Washer and dryer, $2,450. Living room furniture, $3,200. Master bathroom remodel, $6,500. His finger traced down the pages, past receipts and bank statements, until he reached the final calculations. "Over $130,000, he whispered. "My God, Mom. And that's not counting the 3 meals a day I cooked, the cleaning, the childcare, the laundry. If we put a price on that work at the rate of a live-in domestic worker, about $40,000 more." Ryan closed the notebook carefully as if it might crumble. "I don't have $130,000 to pay you back." "I know. I don't even have $20,000 in savings." "I know that too. So what do you want the house?" "I want," I said slowly, "you to understand what you lost. It wasn't just a house. It wasn't money or furniture. You lost me. You lost your mother. I haven't lost you. You're right here. When was the last time you asked how I was, really asked how I slept? If my arthritis was acting up, if I missed your father, if I felt lonely?" Silence. "When was the last time you hugged me without it being in passing? When you sat down for coffee just to talk? When you looked me in the eyes and saw me as a person, not as someone who does your laundry?" More silence. "I became a service, Ryan, not your mother. And you let it happen." "I'm sorry." The words came out broken. "I'm so sorry." "I know, but sorry doesn't give me back 3 years. It doesn't give me back my dignity." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the USB drive. I placed it on the table next to the notebook. Ryan stared at it. "What is that?" "Listen to it when you get home, alone. Jessica can't be there." "Why not?" "Because if you listen to it together, you'll end up divorced tonight. And your children don't deserve a broken home." His face went white. "Mom, what's on here?" The truth. 17 recordings of conversations where Jessica talks about me when she thinks I'm not listening, where she plans how to get rid of me, where she mocks me with her friends. Ryan picked up the USB drive like it was a live grenade. "Listen to all of it," I said. "Then decide if you want to meet at the notary's office tomorrow with your wife, or if you'd rather we talk just the two of us first." He stood up, staggering slightly. He grabbed the USB drive and the notebook. "Mom, is there anything I can do to fix this? Yes, you can learn, you can change, and you can teach your children that elderly people aren't furniture, that your mother wasn't a servant, that love and respect aren't optional in a family." He walked to the door. His hand on the knob, he stopped. Is there any chance at all that you could forgive me? I looked at my son, my baby boy, who I'd nursed through fevers, taught to tie his shoes, helped with homework, sent off to college with care packages. The boy who'd become a man who forgot where he came from. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I know this, I'm not willing to be invisible anymore. And you need to decide if you want a real relationship with me, or if you just want someone to do your dishes. He left without another word. Trish sat beside me and held me as I cried. Did you do the right thing? She asked softly. I don't know, but I did what was necessary. Ryan didn't tell me about this part until months later during one of our therapy sessions. But he gave me permission to share it because he said it was important that people understand how blind they can become to cruelty when it's happening right in front of them. He went home around 11:00 a.m. Jessica was in the kitchen making pancakes for the kids, trying to maintain normalcy, he said. She looked up when he entered, her eyes red and swollen. Did you see her? Did you talk to her? I need to be alone for a while, Ryan said. He held up the USB drive. She gave me this. I need to listen to it. What is it? Evidence. He went to the garage, the only place he could be truly alone. He pulled out his laptop, plugged in earbuds, inserted the USB drive. 17 files labeled by date. He started with the first one. October 15th, 2024. Jessica on phone with her sister. No, seriously, Sarah, it's like having free maid service. She gets up at 5 a.m., cooks, cleans, watches the kids. And the best part, I don't have to pay her or give her days off because she's family. Ryan feels guilty sometimes, but I tell him she's better off here than alone in some apartment. When she dies, that pension money can finally go towards something useful. We'll have the whole house to ourselves. Her sister's laughter on the other end. You're so smart, Jess. Ryan's hands clenched on the laptop. He clicked the next file. November 23rd, 2024. Jessica and Ryan in their bedroom. He remembered this conversation. Jessica. Your mom is getting really annoying, Ryan. She wants opinions on everything. On how I raise my kids, what I buy at the supermarket. Every time the kids listen to her more than me, my blood boils. Ryan, his own voice. She's just trying to help Em. Jessica. Helping is interfering. When she dies, and let's be honest, she's 68, how much longer does she have? That pension should go toward the kids' college fund. Maybe it's time she found her own space. A small apartment or a nice retirement home. Ryan. I can't just kick her out. She's my mother. Jessica. You don't have to kick her out. Just suggest she'd be happier somewhere else. For her own good. Ryan, after a long pause. I'll think about it. Ryan stopped the recording. He remembered that conversation. He remembered considering it, actually thinking about how to convince his mother to leave. The garage walls seemed to close in. He clicked file after file, each one worse than the last. File 5. Jessica with friends. My mother-in-law does everything in the house so I can focus on my career. That's why I got promoted. I don't have to worry about domestic bullshit. Friend. And she doesn't charge you, Jessica. Charge me. She lives here for free. Besides, she sold her house and gave us the money. It's like she's paying us to live here. Laughter all around. File 9. Jessica to her mother. Jessica. Mom, I can't take it anymore. She's always here, always watching, always judging. Jessica's mom. Honey, remember how Bob's mother treated you in your first marriage? You swore you'd never be like her. Jessica silence then. This is different. Mom. Is it because from where I'm sitting, it sounds exactly the same? You're doing to Ryan's mother what Bob's mother did to you. Ryan paused this one. Jessica had been married before. She'd never told him about abuse from a first mother-in-law. He'd known about the marriage, but not the details. He kept listening. Fail 14. Jessica on phone. When she's too old to be useful, we'll figure something out. There are plenty of state-funded nursing homes. The kids will barely remember her by then anyway. By the time Ryan finished all 17 files, he'd been in the garage for 4 hours. It was 3:00 p.m. His face was wet with tears. He didn't remember crying. He'd vomited once in the utility sink in the corner. Everything he thought he knew about his wife, his marriage, his mother's situation, all of it had been a lie. No, not a lie. He'd known. Somewhere deep down, he'd known Jessica was cruel to his mother. He'd heard the dismissive tone, seen the eye rolls, noticed his mother growing smaller and quieter. And he'd done nothing. Because it was easier. Because Jessica was his wife, and keeping peace with her was more important than defending his mother. Because he was a coward. Ryan sat in that garage as the sun moved across the sky, and he understood something fundamental: his mother was right. He hadn't just failed her. He'd lost her, and he didn't know if he'd ever get her back. Sunday afternoon at 3:00 p.m. there was another knock on Trish's door. This time when I looked through the window, I saw Tyler standing alone on the porch, his hands shoved in his pockets, his face blotchy from crying. I opened the door, and he launched himself at me, wrapping his 9-year-old arms around my waist and sobbing into my sweater. "Grandma, I miss you so much." I held him tight, breathing in the smell of his strawberry shampoo, feeling his small body shake with tears. "Oh, sweetheart, I miss you too." "Why did you leave?" he asked, pulling back to look at me with those big brown eyes, Ryan's eyes. I knelt down to his level, ignoring the protest from my knees. "Because sometimes when people treat you badly for a long time, you have to walk away to remind them that you're important. But we don't treat you bad." "I know, baby. You and Emma love me. You never made me feel bad. But your parents—" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Your parents forgot how to treat me right." "Dad is really sad," Tyler said. He was in the garage all day listening to something on his computer. "And Mom won't stop crying. She keeps saying she's sorry, but I don't know what she's sorry for." "I know they're sad. Are you coming back?" His voice was so small, so hopeful. I looked into those trusting eyes and had to be honest. "I don't know, Tyler, but what I do know is that I love you and Emma more than anything. And none of this is your fault. Do you understand? None of it." He nodded, wiping his nose on his sleeve. "Can I visit you here?" "Anytime you want, sweetheart. This is just a different place for Grandma to live. But I'm still your grandma." We spent 2 hours together. Trish made us cookies, the chocolate chip kind with extra chips. I read Tyler his favorite book, Where the Wild Things Are, just like I used to. We played dominoes at Trish's kitchen table. For those 2 hours, everything felt normal, like the world hadn't shifted on its axis. When Ryan came to pick him up at 5:00 p.m., his face was devastated. He stood in the doorway, not coming in, just waiting. Tyler hugged me one more time. "I love you, Grandma." "I love you too, baby. So much." As Tyler ran to the car, I caught Ryan's eye. "Did you listen to it?" He nodded, unable to speak. "All of it." Another nod. "Then I'll see you tomorrow." He turned to go, then stopped. "Mom, I didn't know about Jessica's first marriage, about what her mother-in-law did to her." I looked at him. "That explains her behavior. It doesn't excuse it. You know that, right?" "I know." He paused. "I also know that I knew. Somewhere I knew she was being cruel, and I let it happen because it was easier than standing up to her. That's on me." It was the first honest thing he'd said to me in 3 years. "Yes," I said quietly. "It is." He walked to his car, shoulders slumped like he was carrying the weight of the world. I watched them drive away, then went back inside where Trish was waiting with tea. "Hard day?" she asked. "The hardest, but necessary. Tomorrow would be even harder. Tomorrow we'd all sit across from each other at Mr. Harrison's office, and I'd find out if my family could be saved, or if some breaks are too deep to mend." Monday morning, 9:30 a.m., Olivia picked me up in her silver Prius, her briefcase bulging with ammunition. Mr. Harrison's office occupied a historic building downtown, exposed brick-tall windows, the weight of 100 years of contracts. His secretary showed us into the conference room at 9:45. "Mrs. Thompson," Mr. Harrison greeted me with a hug. "I'm sorry it came to this." "So am I, Harold." At 9:53, footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, reluctant. Ryan entered first in a gray suit and dark tie, looking like he was attending a funeral. His eyes were sunken, ringed with shadows. He'd aged years in 3 days. Behind him, Jessica, but not the confident Jessica I knew. This Jessica wore a conservative navy dress hair and a simple ponytail, minimal makeup. She looked like a child called to the principal's office. When she saw me, her eyes dropped to the floor. They sat across from us. "We're here to resolve property ownership at 847 Jurist Circle," Mr. Harrison began. "We know," Jessica interrupted. "We know everything." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Do you?" That my client invested $136,800, that you've lived without a lease for 3 years, that we can evict, immediately charge back rent of $90,000 plus sue for emotional damages. Yes, Jessica whispered. Ryan spoke, his voice raw. Mom, I listened to the recordings, all 17. 4 hours. Each one destroyed me. He looked at me. I heard how she talked about you, the plans, the nursing home. God, Mom. Ryan, Jessica started. No, his voice was sharp. You don't get to minimize this. He turned to me. I heard her say, when the old woman dies, that pension can go towards something useful. We'll have the whole house. Jessica covered her face. Olivia leaned forward with a shark smile. Would you like to listen to the recordings here? I have certified copies. We could share this experience with everyone. No, Jessica's head snapped up. Please? I think it's necessary, Olivia said coldly, because my client has audio bank statements, receipts, witness statements, text messages. We've documented elder abuse and financial exploitation. This could go criminal, Mrs. Brooks Thompson. Jessica stood abruptly. Please, I'll do whatever it takes. Sit down, Ryan said quietly. She collapsed, trembling. Mr. Harrison spoke gravely. Mrs. Brooks Thompson, I've known Mrs. Thompson 30 years. She's a woman of honor. You forgive my frankness, treated her like garbage. Jessica buried her face in her hands. I know, and I'm so sorry. Are you sorry you humiliated me? I asked coldly. Or sorry you got caught? She looked up, mascara running. Both. I'm sorry I was cruel, and I'm sorry I was exposed because it forced me to see the monster I became. That surprised me. No excuses, just awareness. I grew up poor, Margaret. Very poor. My mother cleaned houses for rich families. I watched them treat her like she was invisible. Her voice cracked. When I escaped that poverty, got my career, I swore I'd never be powerless again, and I became exactly what I hated. The employers who destroyed my mother. And you did it to me, I said quietly. The woman who gave you everything. She nodded, tears streaming. I was afraid. Afraid the kids would love you more. Afraid Ryan would see you were better at everything. So I treated you badly to feel superior, to remind myself I was in charge. She turned to me fully. But it wasn't my house. It was your house. And I was too blind to see it. Does your mother know? Jessica shook her head. If she knew, she'd disown me. She always said, treat your mother-in-law how you'd want someone to treat me. And I did the exact opposite. The room was silent except for the old clock ticking. Olivia looked at me, waiting for the signal to destroy Jessica legally. But something in Jessica's broken awareness made me pause. Maybe people could change. Mr. Harrison drummed his fingers. We need to address the practical situation. Mrs. Thompson has 3 legal options. Olivia spread documents across the table. Option 1, immediate eviction. 30 days to vacate. Jessica went pale. Option 2, full purchase. Pay $136,800 within 90 days. The house becomes yours. Ryan shook his head. We don't have that money. Maybe $15,000 saved. Option 3, Olivia said, looking at me. Property division and cohabitation agreement. Jessica frowned. What does that mean? We legally divide the house, I explained. I get 60%. You get 40% purchased over 5 years at $920 per month. You'd give us 40%. Jessica looked stunned. With conditions. First, I'm not coming back. I'll rent my 60% to a family I select. They'll live with you, sharing common spaces. You'll learn what it feels like to share your space with someone you didn't choose. Ryan understood immediately. Like how you felt with us. Exactly. Second condition, therapy. You and me, Ryan. Once a week, 6 months. Just us two. Ryan's eyes filled with hope. You do that after everything. You're my son. You failed me, but I won't give up without trying. Ryan walked around the table and dropped to his knees in front of me. Forgive me, Mom. Please. I put my hands on his shoulders, feeling him shake. I'm working on it. This is your chance to rebuild. I'll take it, he whispered. Whatever it takes. Jessica asked quietly, and me? Treat the tenants with respect. Teach my grandchildren that everyone deserves dignity, and work on whatever made you so cruel. I will, Jessica said fiercely. I promise. Mr. Harrison had prepared everything. We spent an hour reviewing every clause. Property division 60/40. Purchase price $55,000 over 60 months. Lease agreement. Margaret selects tenants. Rent $850 month. Protection clauses. Default equal property reverts. Tenant harassment equals agreement terminates. We signed. When it was done, I felt lighter. Ryan caught my arm as we left. Thank you for not destroying us. I don't gain from destroying you. I gain by seeing if we can heal. Jessica asked, "Can I hug you?" I hesitated, then nodded. She embraced me. "I'll prove I can change," she whispered. "We'll see." 2 weeks later, I met Rachel Hayes at a cafe, a 52-year-old teacher whose husband had died in a car accident. Medical bills ate their savings. Now she lived cramped with her teenagers Jake, 14, and Lily, 11, working 2 jobs. I told her everything, the mistreatment, the legal battle, what she'd be walking into. "So you'd live with my son and daughter-in-law, who are learning to treat people with respect." Rachel smiled. "Mrs. Thompson, my mother was a housekeeper. Rich families treated her like dirt. Your story is her story. If I can help teach your family that people like my mother, like you, deserve respect, that's worth more than cheap rent. When can you move in?" "April 1st. April 1st. The moving truck arrived at 10:00 a.m. Jessica answered the door. "Margaret, come in." I introduced Rachel and her kids. Jessica's face showed resentment and forced politeness, but she managed, "Welcome." Ryan appeared, shook hands, noticed Jake's guitar case. "You play I used to. Maybe you can show me sometime." Jake's face lit up. Emma and Lily became instant friends, running upstairs, chattering. Tyler and Jake bonded over video games. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Therapy started the following week. Dr. Montero's office converted Victorian warm and calm. That first session, Ryan and I cried for 50 minutes. "I let her disappear," Ryan told Dr. Montero. "Easier to keep peace with my wife than defend my mom." "I let it happen," I admitted. "Afraid of being alone. Afraid they'd send me away." "Fear makes us accept intolerable things," Dr. Montero said. "But you're here. That means you want to heal." By session 5, Ryan opened up about the pressure work family, Jessica's ambition, his inadequacy. "Having you there made everything run smoothly. I took advantage instead of appreciating." By session 10, the breakthrough. "Mom, I knew the house was in your name. For over a year." I stared. "What?" "I knew. Didn't tell Jessica because she'd pushed to change it. So I kept it secret, thinking I was protecting you. Really, I was protecting myself from conflict. It was complicated. He'd known but done nothing." "Thank you for telling me," I said finally. "It doesn't fix it, but it helps." By session 20, we were laughing about old memories. When he asked, "Can I hug you?" I didn't hesitate. 4 months later, July, Ryan called. "Mom, Sunday dinner. Rachel's making mole. The kids want you there. I need you to see we're trying. Please." I'd avoided staying for meals, but I heard the hope in his voice. "Okay, what time?" The smell of mole hit me first, rich, complex hours of work. Emma and Tyler ambushed me with hugs. The table was set for 11. Jessica appeared looking softer somehow. "Margaret, thank you for coming." We sat, all of us, for a moment impossibly awkward. Then Jake told a joke and everyone laughed and the ice broke. The mole was incredible. Tyler talked about soccer. Emma showed me her drawing. Lily performed a monologue from Annie right at the table. Jessica and Rachel moved around the kitchen with the ease of people who'd learned to coexist. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I was at a family table. After dinner, Jessica asked to speak privately. We went to the backyard. "Margaret, I'm in therapy twice a week, working on my insecurity, my control issues." She paused. "Rachel's teaching me about gratitude. She lost everything and still smiles. I had everything and never stopped complaining. I'm glad you're working on yourself. I'm not asking forgiveness yet, just a chance to prove I'm changing." "Forgiveness is earned, Jessica, with time and actions." "I know, but if I ever treat anyone like I treated you, this agreement ends. I understand." Good. 6 months later, October. Jessica called asking for coffee. At Starbucks, she pulled out papers. "I've been saving. I want to buy your 60% of the house." I blinked. Not what I expected. "Payment plan over 5 years. $2,300 per month. Fair interest. Olivia helped me make sure it's equitable." You talked to Olivia? I wanted to make sure I wasn't taking advantage. Her eyes were earnest. Margaret, that house is yours. Your sacrifice. I want to pay you back properly. The Jessica from a year ago wanted it free. Today's Jessica wants to earn things, to pay what I owe, to sleep without guilt. And Rachel. We offered them a real lease fair rent. They love it there, the kids are best friends. They said yes. I looked at the numbers. More than fair generous. Why now? Because it's right. Because I want my children to see me do the right thing. And because Rachel told me the measure of a person isn't their worst moment, it's what they do after. This is what I'm doing after. I thought for 30 seconds. Okay, I accept. Jessica exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for hours. Really, but if you miss payments, I won't. You have my word. In writing with lawyers, with witnesses. We shook hands, two former enemies building something like respect. 1 year and 3 months after I left, I'm 69, living in my small Coyoacan apartment. My hair's more white than brown. My knees complain. But I'm happy. Genuinely happy. I teach knitting at the community center Tuesdays and Thursdays. I walk with Trish every morning. Ryan visits every Sunday, sometimes with kids, sometimes alone, and we cook together. Jessica texts every few days. Photos, recipes, therapy quotes, small gestures that say I'm still trying. Rachel and I have coffee every Wednesday. Her kids call me Miss Maggie. Jessica's payment arrives like clockwork, $200-300 on the 1st, always with a note. October payment. Thank you for trusting me. Did I get my family back? Not the way it was. We can't go back. Too much happened. But we have something new, something honest, built on respect, not obligation. This Sunday I'm meeting Ryan, Tyler, and Emma at the park, our tradition. Corn ice cream, our favorite tree. Just being together. On my wall hangs Emma's drawing me with a suitcase, smiling. The caption in her careful handwriting, "My Grandma Maggie, the bravest woman I know, because she knew when to leave and when she was ready to come back." I touch the frame gently. At the park, Tyler runs to me. "Grandma, I made honor roll." Emma shows me her missing tooth. Ryan hands me iced coffee he remembered. We sit under our tree. Ryan talks about standing up for himself at work, about teaching Tyler to change a tire. "Mom," he says while the kids play thank you for not giving up on me. I squeeze his hand. "You're welcome, son." As we sit in dappled shade, I think about all the women who wrote after my Facebook post, who found courage to leave, who set boundaries, who reclaimed dignity. My story was never just mine. It belonged to all of us, the invisible ones, the exploited ones, the ones who gave everything and got crumbs. But we're not invisible anymore. I look at my son, my grandchildren, this imperfect healing family, and I understand true wealth isn't in what you own. It's in what you refuse to let be taken from you. And I, Margaret Ann Thompson, 69 years old, got my soul back. And no one will ever steal that from me again. Sometimes the most radical thing a woman can do is choose herself.